sitting at my desk, and I'm eating smart food because sometimes we just have to do that. Ooh, I can't believe that we're already so far into December and I only have like two parts left to this manifesto journey that I'm on. I would love to tell you that I've had time to sit down and to write it all out and to like craft it into this thing that can live on for posterity, but I haven't. I have just been able to do what I've done so far, which is share it with you week by week in a newsletter. And in reality, there's time hopefully that's coming for me that I can sit down and put it all together. This last week was a really tough one. I debated even sharing specifically what I mean by diluting my leadership because it's a very vulnerable part for me. Um, and ironically, I think it's such a key part of what it means for me to be feisty. And I have spent so much time as a professional diluting myself to make myself more acceptable to others. And I can't quite believe I've done it, to be honest with you, because it's not who I am. And when people who have known me for a really long time meet me, I think they would be surprised to think about the fact that I have felt like I have had to dilute myself as a leader. But I'm here to tell you and state unequivocally that I am that person. I was that person. I continue to be challenged as that person sometimes. I think a lot of it has to do with not being able to fully embrace feedback because it hurts too much, which is which is hard, but true. But I think also the idea of bringing my whole self to every table that I sit at, I know that's too much for a lot of people. Now, ironically, I think as a coach, a lot of times it's because they themselves are not fully present at the tables that they're sitting at. And you know what? Leadership 101, man, that creates an imbalance. If you're sitting in a project meeting or any meeting for that matter, and you are authentically present and someone else is not, it's not going to work. You're not going to jive. It is very possible and probable that you are going to be in conflict or not see things eye to eye because presence means authenticity. It means checking your own bias, like in the moment. It also means giving people the benefit of the doubt, or as I like to frame, unconditional positive regard. You believe that everyone at that same table has the best of intentions, and you decide that on their behalf, even if they give you no reason to believe that it's true. This is the predisposition that is really required for servant leadership. And humans, we generally suck at this. I sucked at this. I continue to, but I'm getting better and better. And I realize presence means I'm just going to show up and be myself. And that means that's going to make other people uncomfortable. I gave the story of this like leadership kind of thing that I'm involved with. And we meet every month. And, this guy who's supposed to know everything about everything when it comes to marketing just told me, like, you're never going to be anything. You're not going to make it with a brand like Feisty PM. And I realize like he absolutely understands marketing and understands himself and what he's talking about. And for him, that was really important for him to share. I, I don't believe it was to hurt me intentionally. I believe in some twisted way he's thinking he's helping. But what I don't want to pick up from that is what that can then do to me in my vulnerability, which is mean that I will dilute who I am in order to make him and ideally a whole bigger market of people like me more. That I think we need to do away with. And that I would say I challenge his authority in that area, not because it hasn't worked for him and that he doesn't, have successful clients and do an amazing job of marketing. I would say, but what for? What for? If what that means is we're actually creating a version of ourselves to make ourselves more palatable to more people so we can what? Have greater reach, make more money? These are the wrong metrics. I'm not interested in hundreds and thousands of people and having a positive impact. I feel like in the macro, that scope is way too big, and that scope is going to fuck with my head too much. And I don't want to do that. I want my ego to be relegated enough to recognize that if I am sharing my story and being authentic with even one individual, that makes the difference. That those micro moments that we as professionals have every day, those micro moments are actually that's where the that's where the value is. We deliver value in those micro moments. It's not in the big picture. And I'm not saying we don't get good value in those moments. Of course we do, but it's like that has to be a big part of what has added up all the little things. So when I say that I don't dilute my leadership, it is because I want to understand myself and who I am for and where my voice can have an impact. And I won't apologize for being me. I don't also want to apologize for fucking up because I do it a lot. I really do. I do it every day in many ways, but I also do it in big ways on a regular basis because I'm just human. But being feisty for me is not about denying my humanity. I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I just want my voice, my edge, and my clarity in the moment to be something that I can be proud of. And if a moment later I regret it, I want to be able to say, I'm sorry, I regret that I said that. Or I'm sorry, I regret that that moment came out because I feel differently about it now. I mean, I'm changing, I'm evolving. There's no end destination. It needs definitely to be the journey of self and the journey of that awareness. And so I'm on a leadership journey, and it's funny, I teach leadership, which I'm so humbled to do because I'm like, how can I teach it when, quite frankly, I'm still learning it myself? But in the journey of sharing my leadership experiences with students, they have this amazing impact on me, which is this awareness that, like, it isn't a destination. We don't take a class, get a rubber stamp, and go, okay, we're a leader. That's not how it works. And leadership takes on many, many forms. But I really do believe that genuine, authentic leadership never means losing yourself to make others happy. I just want to be able to show up whole. And this means not being the kid that I was raised to be in a lot of cases, because I was raised to be a kid that was fine all the time, that was good. I was taught to, if somebody asks you how you're doing, you always say great, because an action can change an emotion. And I do believe that our actions and our behaviors can change our emotional state. What I don't hold true to anymore is the notion that I can't also be authentic. I think it's a combination of both. I think it's when you ask me, how you doing, Amber, and I'm not doing well, I think it's me saying, wow, things are tough right now, but I'm optimistic about this, but I'm also honest about what really is going on in my life. And I don't have to give you all the gory details, but I can just show up and be present. I think it's both. And I want it to be both. I don't want to shrink in those moments. And I don't want to be someone that I'm not. I don't want to say I'm great when I'm not. And I don't want to say or perseverate on the fact that I'm not good when I know there's always hope. It's audacious to have hope that things are going to get better, but I do believe as humans we were wired for that audacity. I really do. So I'm going to continue to do the work of showing up in spaces and being myself. I want to contribute what I think, what I care about, and who I am. I want to elevate others. I want to be a spark for others so that they feel and see themselves the way I do, which is with unconditional positive regard. And even when they show sides of themselves to me that are less than edifying, I still want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I also do the same thing. So, number 8 in my Feisty manifesto is my leadership is not up for dilution, because when one is feisty, one recognizes that the journey is just that. It's a journey. Showing up and being present is actually the task. And our leadership is something that we need to be willing to share, even when others don't agree with it. That's part of what being feisty is recognizing that the feistiness is going to provoke some people, and that's okay. And not to take it personally, and at the same time, with respect, to continue to extend unconditional positive regard. So that's my take on what I've thought about for this last week. 2 more to go, my friends. 2 more to go. Thanks so much for watching.